Alright, so this is going to be part 3 to What If Deku Had Overhaul. So with that being said, I guess we could just get into it. I guess before that actually, I do have to say a few things. One is that we still need people to join the Discord for my Black Clover original series. So if you want to join, I'll have it linked in the description, and then you can make your own OC for that series. And yeah, so let's get into the actual what if. So last time we just got done with the kind of heroes versus villains test. So in this one we're gonna go over the sports festival. So Aizawa would tell the students about the trip that they're going to have pretty soon, which is the USJ, and he tells them that it's gonna basically go over things like rescue type heroes, those who like save people during natural disasters and help rescue them. So he says they're gonna go in a few days. So in this meantime, it would be a regular day, and then they would go to lunch. So when they get to their lunch, this is where the villains would, go inside of UA and take the information to know that they're going to the USJ. At the same time, this is also around the same time where Aizawa would ask the students to pick a class representative, and they would pick. It's kind of hard to tell who they would pick. In this case, I think they would pick Deku because of how strong his quirk is and how well he was able to work with Uraraka in their team. So yeah, and Deku really wouldn't be hesitant to become a leader, because he wasn't really that shy growing up. He was really the center of attention for quite a bit, not in all cases but a lot, because of how he would help people, and people would generally surround people, or he'd get surrounded by people who cared about him and those who generally liked him because of how much he helped others. So he would have no reason to not really become the representative. So since Deku is the representative, he has a responsibility to be someone who looks out for his classmates. So when everyone starts panicking because of the alarms going off, he's there to basically use his quirk to get everyone's attention, to basically make them calm down. So I made a poll last time basically asking what the name of the quirk should be, and I gave you guys 3 options, that being reform, rearrange, and all over. And what you guys voted for was rearrange, or reform. So reform actually won the poll, so we're gonna go with that as the name. So there's also one thing I said last time. I said that I don't know if you guys want to have one for all because it's overpowered with the type of quirk he has, and the majority of people said no, so we're not gonna do that. So yeah. So what Deku would do to basically get everyone's attention is that he would use his quirk and touch the ground and basically make it shake and kind of warp the floor a bit. So almost like as if it was water. That's how kind of fluid it is. So after that, people would notice, and Deku being there would say that everyone needs to calm down, because you can't just panic in these type of situations. This is when he would look outside and notice it's just news reporters and things like that, and he would explain this to the students there. After this, everyone would calm down, and Class 1A would get more respect out of Deku, since they see him as someone who is able to be calm and collective in a situation like this. So we could skip a few days, or I guess in between the 2 days that it would take to get to the USJ. Deku would actually confront Bakugou, and what he would say to Bakugou is that he forgives him for what happened in middle school, and that is basically throwing him to the wolves, I guess, or even not really that. It's more like backstabbing, sort of convincing people that he had a villainous quirk and that he was a villain himself. So after, years of this, Deku has gotten over it. He has gotten past those times and really wants to be the more mature person, because all this time he's just been ignoring Bakugou. He's just been doing this to kind of just not interact with him. And hearing this apology from Bakugou, or from Deku to Bakugou, actually gets Bakugou a bit mad, because he feels like Deku thinks of himself as superior to Bakugou because of how he apologized first, even though he subconsciously thinks that he should apologize and not the other way around. So after this, Bakugou he's visually angry, but he doesn't really say much, and Deku just basically walks away. So we get to skip a few days, and this is where they would actually get to the USJ, or when they go there. So he would basically have everyone load up onto the bus. Aizawa would, and Deku would be there to basically tell everyone to line up and get into the bus. So again, I don't know what you guys want for the costume for Deku. You guys never really said anything about it. I'm guessing it'd just be what he has in, the cover, but I'm not sure if you guys want that. So everyone would get onto the bus as usual, and this is where they would basically have the same conversation that they did in canon, where Froppy basically brings the conversation about how Deku is one of the, or basically she's talking about the top 3 students in Class 1A, that being Bakugou, Deku, and Todoroki, not in that order, because in this case I think Deku would be the strongest, I guess, in terms of their quirks, and it's really hard to say who would win in a fight between Deku and Todoroki, because Deku can keep morphing and healing himself, while Todoroki has a lot of AoE attacks with the fire and ice. So Deku would be considered the strongest at this point, and Bakugou would be considered the third, while Todoroki's in second. So both, this is where Deku they would ask Deku about his quirk and how it really works. So Deku would basically say it's called Reform, and it lets him control the molecules of matter, right? Any type of matter, really. So he's able to reform things into anything he really wants, right? And he's used this to help people and reconfigure their bodies, right? So everyone's really impressed. Baku at this point, he's still a bit mad of how people are praising him, or praising Deku, not him. And Todoroki's really doesn't care like he usually does, and really is quiet and keeps to himself. So eventually they would get to the USJ, and this is where they would open the doors and meet 13, where she would give that speech about quirk usage and how you should learn to control your quirk, or else it might end up hurting people. So this kind of speech actually does affect Deku quite a bit, not as much as it does in canon, because he does have a better control of his quirk than he does in canon, as well as knowing the limitations and what it can do and what it can't do, as well as the benefits of like the positives and the negatives, such as destroying things and healing others. So after that, they would continue. When they're about to go down the stairs, this is where the villains actually come out of the gateway, and Aizawa basically tells 13 to take the kids out and basically keep them safe. And he sees that he sees 3 figures, this being the Nomu, Shigaraki, and Kurogiri. So he would rush down there to basically go and fight, and I think Deku would come there as well, since he does have a lot of AoE kind of attacks in terms of he has a lot of crowd control basically. So he would go down there, and Aizawa would tell him to not, and to go with the others. Well, Deku would really rebut this and basically said I could help him, or he could help Aizawa from a distance using his quirk, as well as healing anyone who does get injured. So Deku and Aizawa are basically teaming up at this point. Deku is using the floor to basically shift it around and basically crush people. He's moving villains and other villains together, using the floor to throw them at each other and basically crushing them, not killing them because he doesn't want to kill them, but he does get them pretty injured. And so we're talking like broken bones and things like that. So they're able to easily take out most of the villains relatively fast because of how Deku is able to affect a lot of them at once. And this is around the same time where the other classmates are actually teleported around the area. So they're fighting their own kind of villain there, while Deku is still with Aizawa. So eventually they would get to the point where the Nomu would have to step in. So at first Aizawa would go for Shigaraki, and this is where the Nomu would block his punch from actually hitting him. So the Nomu would grab Aizawa and smash him into the ground, kind of making him bleed from his forehead. Deku would see this, and he would try to go and help Aizawa. This is where Shigaraki would try to block Deku and try to touch him, but Deku, what he does is that he dodges the first hit, touches the ground when he's dodging, and basically makes this kind of almost earthquake kind of next to him, shifting the ground and moving the floor that's underneath him, and basically land surfing. I got that idea from a comment. And he rushes towards the Nomu and Aizawa. So the Nomu is actually preparing for like a hit on him, right? And that's what, instead of like a punch, Deku actually touches the Nomu after taking off. Never mind. After like just going next to the Nomu, touching his like chest on his way by, and this actually makes the Nomu basically fall apart. Not fall apart, but almost disintegrate. I don't really know what the right word is for that kind of ability. So the Nomu basically explodes because of how Deku's quirk works. And Shigaraki's just like surprised on what happened. Like, what is this? You know, what just happened? And I don't think the Nomu would be able to regenerate from this, because there are limits on regeneration, especially in the My Hero world, where things like that aren't really too powerful. So he'd be very shocked and surprised at this, and a little bit irritated, and he'd be scratching his neck very viciously at this point. So after this, this would be around the same time where the heroes would come, because Ida would be there to basically tell the teachers that there is a villain attack, so they'd come in and rescue the day. Shigaraki would still get injured by Snipe, getting shot in each limb, while getting teleported by Kuriguri, and the rest of the class basically saves himself from the villains nearby, and any people that were kind of injured during that, Deku's actually there to heal him using his quirk, such as Aizawa. So Aizawa doesn't really need to have that kind of nerf on his power, as well as going through those, you know, I guess weeks of recovery. So yeah, so the media would come by and basically talk to the students there, and this is actually shown as a positive because no one is really hurt, and the teachers responded relatively fast. So Deku was actually able to use his quirk to kind of hide the fact that some people were hurt, like Aizawa. So it's shown as a better incident, and gives more reason for the dorm system, or it convinces the parents later on that the dorm system might be a better idea. So yeah, this is going to be the end of the video, and if you like it, give it a like. If you want more, tell me down below, and tell me what ifs you want me to do, like old ones or new ones, as well as ideas on where the story should go. So, before we end it off, remember to comment down CS so I know that you made it to the end of the video and that you support the channel. So with that being said, this is going to be the end of the video. So yeah,